Avoiding bad decisions. That's the key to success. You know, we have to think about our thinking. And what our process is to make a decision cannot be based on reaction as opposed to responding, something that we've already pre-thought out. Hi, I'm Joe Clark. I'm the managing partner of the Financial Enhancement Group, and this really is a conversation of over how I look at life. I got a great question from one of the families that we take care of. We're blessed to serve more than 1,100 families in 31 states. More than $600 million that we manage. And the question was pretty clear. Joe, you talk about your risk barometer. Now, sidebar, one, I don't talk about investing on this show, ever. But I do talk about the Market Carver, which is a free video newsletter that you can get sent to your inbox every week. I've been doing it since 2007. Adam Harder, our CFA, and our Chief Investment Officer, and Andrew Thrasher, Charter Market Technician, do most of them now. I fill in every now and then. But since 2007, every week, we've missed 1 week. We've had an allocation meeting, and then we give you our best thoughts from the economy and the market from the week before. It comes out in a video we call the Market Carver, again from 2007. So, we've missed 1 week in 15 years. I'd say it's a pretty good track record. If nothing else, we are at least persistent. That's where I talk about that part of really what's going on inside of the economy. The rest of this really is about thinking about my thinking and trying to avoid bad decisions. And I will always tell you that figuring out how to respond to a condition is better than reacting, because that invites the emotions and the guts, if you will. So Adam and myself and Andrew built what's called a risk barometer, and that risk barometer gives us the metrics of what's going on outside, where it tells us it's going to be rainy or foggy or warm or cold or whatever it is. And it's rarely right on a given day, but it tends to be right with the trend of what's going on over a period of time. And it gives our team the ability to sit back and say, okay, if this happens, which is now more probable than this happening because of the risk barometer, here's how we will respond. Here's the conditions that we have. When you look at life from another side, or another condition in the risk barometer, it may go to the other side. And so, somebody who knows me well asked me the question, made a lot of sense. Joe, I know you talk about keeping your emotions at bay to try to reduce bad decisions, but how do you really get that done in this world where the market is just absolutely volatile? And part of it, in all fairness, it is experience, right? I started in this industry 2 weeks before the crash in 1987. I came from a family with lots of love but no resources, right? So I show up on a Monday morning, the secretary's crying. Literally everybody had already quit. It's 10 or 11 in the morning. They'd quit. Right? And so I had to teach myself this industry from the street side before I went to the CFP world to become a certified financial planner, and now I've done this for 35 years. But I've dealt with more volatility from 87, the tech wreck in 2000, 9/11, 2002, which was a horrible technical year for the market, the Great Recession in 08 and 09, the pandemic in 2020 and beyond, as some people would say. I've dealt with that. So part of it's experience. You may want to look at your spouse right now because you may have more money in equities today than your kids do. That's the first time in history, by the way. And I can give you a lot of reasons and rationale for it, but we do, for the first time in recorded history, the people that are 60 and older have a higher allocation to equities than people who are 40 and under. It's never happened before in recorded history. And again, I can give you some reasons, but I think it is reaction as opposed to a response and to good decisions. I think it's reacting to the world that they grew up in and the environment they grew up in. And you and I that are listening to this, because I'm just like you and I that are listening to this have been through a lot. We've seen a lot through the world of the lens of the 401k. So how do I keep from making bad decisions? And I belong to 3 different organizations. The CFP board I don't count, but Ed Slott is where I go to get my tax information. I deal with multiple CPA firms around the country. many CPAs where somebody will come in and we deal with their firm on their individual stuff, just like we would with you. But we also have our preferred providers that we've had long-standing relationships with, Huth Thompson, more than 20 years now. So we have that side, but Ed Slot's where I go to get my tax training from a tax attorney, CPAs, CFPs that focus on nothing but tax stuff. Strategic Coach is a program that I go to that helps me as an individual entrepreneur understand how to relate and deal with the rest of the world. And then Genius Marketing is where there's a lot of people that help to craft messages and be able to get that information out. So the guy who distributes the podcast for me is across in the YouTube channels is part of that program. So I take in that information. So I don't want you to think that these are necessarily just Joe ideas that have come in. I do a lot of reading and a lot of thinking about my thinking in order to get here. But if you're going to do this on your own, I think you need to deal with a framework so that when something occurs, you have a way to drop it into a filter so that the decision pops out with the least amount of emotional response that you can have. Right, and so at the top of my journal, every time I have to make a decision, and you've heard me say it on this show before, right? I can do just about anything I want to do. We're 25 years old as a firm. I'm the managing partner. We've been very, very blessed. We've got a great team. We can do just about anything we want to do from a business perspective. I chose to build a trust division last year. The team did. We choose to manage money internally. We choose to provide financial planning as part of the package so people don't pay extra for that. We choose to work with estate planning attorneys. Those are business decisions we made. But there's decisions we also didn't get to make because we made those. That's that trade-off. So I can do just about anything I want to do. I just can't do everything I want to do. Well, how does that apply to you? Well, when you've sat down and you've said to your fiduciary, and again, in many cases, that's yourself, right? When you've said to your fiduciary, hey, I want to be growth-oriented, I believe in the long-term economic viability of the economy, or when you say, hey, I am now 60 years old, I've decided I'm only going to have 60% equities, hell or high water, and 40% is going to be in fixed income that provides me coupons. You've made that decision, and then conditions change. You either have to say, well, I've already made the decision, I am done. Or you have to recognize that there's new facts, not just opinions, there's new facts. Or you can get caught up in reacting because of news headlines that didn't really change the facts, they just changed the short-term condition. And you've got to be able to differentiate when those are, right? So, I can do just about anything I want to do. I just can't do everything I want to do. So the first thing when we have to make a decision is to begin to identify what is the choice decision and what are the other options we can make, right? I can leave money in cash. I can buy stock A, stock B, or stock C. And what most people tend to do in their minds is, do I buy A or do I buy B? Or do I not buy A or buy A? And it's really, it's a trade-off. There are things we can do with capital. If I put money in my 401k, I can't put it into another investment account because the dollars can't get spent twice. Those are those kind of things. Secondly, I believe that the quality of your life will always be based on the decisions that you make. The best way to make a good decision is to have the right question. So in the same framework, I tend to ask myself, I say, Joe, because you want to make yourself feel good about yourself, right? Pat me on the back. Joe, that's a great question. But is it the right question? Right? Because sometimes we ask ourselves questions that we want to have the answer to, or we think we already have the answer to. So I'm a bias nut. I search for where bias exists in the world. When I started teaching at Purdue back in 2007, or 2008 rather, I looked at the students at the beginning of class and I said, I know you're not allowed to talk about money, religion, and politics. I get it. But just so you know, I'm a Christian conservative that manages money. And the kid's mouth went, oh, and they went, Professor, you can't say that. Well, I know I can't say that, but it's not fair for me not to say it. I don't care if you're a Christian. I do care, but I'm not going to treat you any different if you're not. I don't care if you're a conservative. I do care, but I'm not going to treat you any different, right? And we are going to talk about money. It's what I do. But you need to understand the lens I look at my bias, right? So, I'm teaching through a lens that I believe, right? And you need to understand that as you listen to this, to try to figure out what your questions are. You don't have to believe what I believe, but you do need to understand, just as I have those biases, you have your own biases about what you believe. One of those biases is the proximity bias, where you tend to believe what you're around the most, right? So be careful who your friends are, what news stations you watch, if you watch one continuously. The other part of that is we tend to find things that reinforce what we already tend to believe to be true. Right? So you intentionally have to look for the alter argument. That's one of those things why you make a list of other options that you have with money, with what you could do. Right? So the market's going to be up or down today. Who knows? Right? Who knows how it started? Who knows where it's going to be midday, and who knows how it's going to end? The probability is you aren't going to buy or sell today. We do that maybe on 15 or 20 days out of the year. Certainly not on a daily basis, and it's depending on what the economy and market give us at a particular time. When you look at this, though, you want to have a decision-making tool that's put together. You want to make sure that you're researching, what are my choices if I buy more today, or if I sell more today, what do I do with that capital? You need to have that thought out simply before you push a button, make a buy order, make a sell order. Understand what you could be doing with the capital in a different direction. The key thing is here to think ahead of time, so that you can reduce the impact of reaction. We all have emotions. Lord knows I do. You can try to contain your biases, understand what they are, and most importantly, search out clear, clarified thoughts so you know how to respond before the event actually arrives, whenever possible. Just my thoughts for the day. I hope you're enjoying your retirement playbook. If you got questions or comments, go to yourlifeafterwork.com or call us at 800-928-4001.